G'day, I'm Anthony from TAT, and I just thought I'd share this quick repair solution with you guys. This had this car come in. It's a 2010 Volkswagen EOS with a 2-litre TSI engine. When it came in, it had been to another workshop. It had the spark plugs replaced. They'd done an oxygen sensor, and it came in with a very obvious misfire. First thing we did was to scan the whole car. We got a heap of codes, strangely enough. Air leak in the intake system, a P2279. Random misfires, P0300. Misfires on cylinder 1, 2, 3 and 4. Idle control system, P0506. And fuel trim bank 1 lean, P0171. So with all those codes in it, the first start point was to isolate which coil was at fault, and we replaced the coil. After replacing the coil, the car was far more drivable. We took it for a test drive. We come back and it still had multiple misfires, a lean code, system leaks. So after that, we decided the next step was to find the leak and to smoke test it. So I'll get the smoke machine out now. We'll sit it on the car and we'll see what we find. Okay guys, we've set up the smoke machine now under the intake system. Now early days when I first did this, I thought for the ease of it, I'd go straight in onto the manifold, and I didn't get any results out of that. So then I actually hooked it up to the main intake straight after the airflow meter, which is the correct way of doing it. Don't make the mistake I made. And now we'll put the car up in the air and I will show you where the smoke's coming from. So after we had the smoke machine on it, we got no smoke from any of the intake system upstairs. I started to get smoke coming from around the air filter box. Knowing that we'd already blocked off that side of the system, we've gone up in the air and had a better look from underneath. Now if you have a look in here, you'll see that we've got a leaky rear main, and if you look closely, you'll see the smoke coming out between the gearbox and the motor, which pretty much tells us our vacuum leaks the rear main seal on one of these, which is pretty well documented on the internet, but I've never had one till this one. So the next step is to pull the gearbox out, replace the rear main seal and recheck it. So I'll bring the car down now and we'll look at some live data, and we'll isolate the PCV system, hence the rear main, as a vacuum leak, and we'll block it off and we'll see the difference that it makes on the live data. Okay guys, so we've got the live data hooked up to this at the moment, and although it's probably pretty hard to see, every now and again it's jumping, but if you have a look over, and it's just reset now, but at the misfire count, you can see that it's got misfires coming into it. They just keep creeping up and creeping up. And if you also have a look at this one over here, group 31, we've got actual and specified, which is what it should be and what it actually is. And if you have a look at the candles, you can see it's slowly creeping up still. What I'm going to do now, if you have a look over here, I'm going to try and block off the PCV system, and I'll pull this out and block this off here if I can keep it running. So if you have a look at the motor, it calms down a little bit, and then you have a look at the actual and the specified lambda control, far more matched, and the misfire count stopped going up. So that misfire count at the moment will probably reset, go back to 0 and start counting again, but you can see that the figures aren't going up. That tells us that we've got rid of the vacuum leak by blocking off the PCV, which also tells us that most likely we're on the money with the rear main seal. Now we'll pull the gearbox out, do the rear main seal, we'll recheck it while the gearbox is out, and I'll do another video then, and then we'll recheck it afterwards. Okay guys, we've got the gearbox out and the smoke machine back on. As you can see from down there, it's fairly flogging out the rear main seal. So we're pretty much on the money. We'll put a new rear main seal in it and do a retest and put it all back together, and we'll have another look at the data and see what codes we've got. G'day guys, so here's the old seal. You can see where it's separated from the actual housing. So it's not actually on the sealing area here that I thought it was leaking from. It's actually separated, which I think is more poor design and poor manufacture than anything else. And I'm not totally sure that the PCV causes this issue. From when I saw where it had separated from, I probably tend to think it's not the PCV, but everyone around says replace that anyway to be sure. And with the big jobs like this, you may as well cover yourself. But that's the old rear main. Okay, here we've got the new seal seated in there with the smoke machine on, and as you can see we're all clear. It's sealing properly. We'll now fit the gearbox and get the motor running again and have a look at some live data. Okay guys, so we've got the gearbox back in with the new seal. We've road tested this car. It drives well. We've got no more codes. If you have a look at the motor, we've got a nice smooth running motor. If you have a look at the data on the Rostec, you'll see we've got no misfires. You'll see the actual specified in the lander controller fine. So we'd call that a successful repair. I think if you're going to take anything from out of this job, it is that yes, you can diagnose there's a vacuum leak. You can isolate it, separate it from the PCB, but to actually find this leak, you need a smoke machine. So if you haven't got a smoke machine, you really need to get one. And I think overall this whole fault finding process only strengthens the need for having the right tools to find the job, to find the issue.